day, everyone. We are the Group 5. But first, let me introduce myself. I'm Junior de Medallo, together with...
Nasa Junman Esam.
Erjin Mantile.
I'm Maria Sofia Alisa J. Datoy.
And our research is about effect of social media involvement and practices in academics of third year BTVTED and FSM. For A, what is the main objective of your study? Which is to know the effect of social media involvement and practices in academics of third year BTVTED and FSM. Um, why did you choose this particular topic? What is relevant? The researcher decided to gather a research study regarding the effects of social media involvement and practices in academics of their GPT and FSM students. Because researchers want to know if there's an effect of involvement and practices in academics. Brainstorming has led to discussion of the good and bad problem caused by spending social media to their academic practices, leading speculation about the possibility of analysis revealing strong a result. By randomly selecting a subset of participants from a population, it was concluded that students should be taught by utilize social media more efficiently and how to maintain a healthy balance between their social media involvement and their practices based on the study result. This research study aims to benefit from student and teacher by informing them outside using social media, its effectiveness when it is used properly. This would later prove the validity of the hypothesis of the study if there were significant correlation to the involvement of social media to the academic practice of their BTVT and FSM. For letter C,
For the letter C, what are your specific research questions? So for our specific research questions, for number 1, age, have a 6 choices. So for the first bracket, 18 to 25 years old. Second bracket, 26 to 30 years old. 31 to 35 years old. 36 to 40 years old. 41 to 45 years old. 46 to 50 years old. For the second question, what is their sex? Has a 2 choices, male and female. Third, allowance answerable by 3 choices, 150 to 250 pesos. Second is the 250 to 500 pesos. Third is 500 and above. For the fourth question, gadget, answerable by 3 answers. For the first, phone. Second, laptop. Third is borrowing. For the fifth, net connection, answerable by 2 choices. First is the Wi-Fi router or the data connection. Next, for letter D, what study design, sample, and data gathering procedures tools did you apply on the study? For the design, the researcher used a correlational research design because the study focuses on understanding what kind of relationship naturally occurring variables have with one another that has not undergone any manipulation by the researcher. For our sample, the researchers used a simple random technique. Our respondents from third-year students of Bachelor of Technical Vocational Education, BTVTED, major in food service management from the College of Industrial Education, TIE, in Technological University of the Philippines, Manila, PUPM, who use social media as their educational platform. We have a 100 respondents regarding to this study to be scrutinized based on their answers on the survey questionnaire. For our tools utilized to gather data were Google Forms. The questionnaires have 2 sections. Section A contained demographic data of the respondents, while the section B consisted of 2 clusters. For the cluster A, what students use social media for consisted of 3 items. For the cluster B, duration of time spent on social media contained 3 items. This resulted to a total of 12 items on a 3-point Likert type of scale. For our procedure,
For our data gathering procedure, creating a questionnaire is the first step that we do in conducting the study and determining its outcome. Afterwards, we write a letter of approbation to the responses. Third year BTVTL FSM student at the Technological University of the Philippines get surveys as a part of the study. A common response that can be readily counted was determined by collecting and grouping replies that related to one another, then tally the replies and use the data analysis process to come up with a new complete data set. Following that, the outcomes were detailed. As a final step, the total number of respondents were answered yes or no was calculated. It was intriguing to hear from researchers who were certain that the data they had collected was accurate. The next step is to synthesize and evaluate the data properly in order to design a plan for doing research based on those findings. Next. So let's proceed now with the statistical treatment that we use. With SPSS software, descriptive analysis, and statistical tools like Pearson's correlation coefficient were used to examine the data that we collected. To identify the mean, frequency, and standard deviation of the variables, descriptive analysis is used to address research objectives 1 and 2. The description of the samples derived from the data collection will be aided by this analysis. According to Tom Lang, year 2003, to assess the link between the two variables, Pearson correlation analysis was used to respond to research questions. Correlation is a method for establishing the link between independent variables. According also to Kuzma and Bonenflas on year 2004.
And for the letter F, result did you obtain per each section? The result of the questionnaire regarding their demographic profile, practices, and involvement of social media in their academics and the correlation between practices and involvement is shown in the succeeding parts. The results of the data analysis for the two variables, which are practices and engagement of BTVTED FSM 3A. In social media are shown in the table above. Excel was used to do an analysis of the data using the Pearson correlation, which yielded a value of 0.25 for the R coefficient and indicated a low correlation for P. The researcher provided a survey, and the data provides a summary of the total number of respondents who participated in the survey. The table demonstrates that the reliability of the students' social media behaviors is much lower than the reliability of the students in social media engagement. This discrepancy in reliability may have an impact on the correlation value of the remaining variables. For letter G, based on the findings, social media becomes an integral part of the student's life, taking up most of his spare time. The time spent by the respondents on social media is stressed that the impact on their academic performance ends up negative. Social media, which had a familiar name as social networks or web, chooses students as its potential victims. All kinds of computer technologies, mobile phones, have significantly expanded the scope of both positive and negative factors of the spiritual and intellectual development of the younger generation. For the recommendation, based on the finding and the conclusion, the following recommendations are hereby offered. Institutions should focus on the making pleasant things useful, promoting social networks as a tool not only for our communication and entertainment, but also for the learning of the students.
So we are the group 5. Once again, thank you for listening. Um, I am Jane Junior Timitado together with Jinman Esa Mendoza, Mary Jane Mantile, and Masapilla Eliza Datoy, and we are the researcher